Welcome to the Blacksmith Chronicles podcast, the official podcast of Ryan Johnson Ministries. This podcast was created for the purpose of equipping others for the advancement of the kingdom of God. We hope that you enjoy this episode and encourage you to subscribe to the Blacksmith Chronicles today. For more information about Ryan Johnson Ministries, please visit www.ryanjohnson.us or email us directly at info@ryanjohnson.us.
Hey guys, welcome to the Blacksmith Chronicles podcast. This week, I am super stoked to have a guest on that I may be a little bit fan appreciative, excitement. I don't know what you want to call it because I've been following his work, what he's been doing. I love his voice in general, but I love everything he's putting out there. I've been following it for some time now, and I reached out. Can't believe he responded as quick as he did, but nevertheless, I want to welcome this week's guest to the Blacksmith Chronicles podcast, Marty Ray of the Marty Ray Project. For everyone else, guys, welcome, if you would, Marty Ray. Thanks so much for joining the Blacksmith Chronicles podcast.
Man, thanks for having me.
You may have the most epic beard of all the podcast guests we've ever had. So I've just actually trimmed my back about a month ago because I'm married.
You trimmed your back?
I did. No, my beard back.
I thought you said I just recently trimmed my back. Oh, I was like, what? What they got to do with your beard, bro? Like that's a weird thing to come out of the gate with. Listen, Marty, I love you. I just recently trimmed my back. It's getting a little out of hand. How's your back hair?
This is going to be great.
Oh, man.
Trimmed my beard back.
Trimmed your beard back. I got you. I'm with you. But how's the back doing, though? Is it pretty hairy?
On some occasions, yes, indeed.
God had some extra hair that you had put on my back. It looks like a sweater I got on when I take my shirt off.
It's just part of it. I had a more thicker beard, but my wife eventually won out. So kudos to yourself. And my barber said I didn't have a right to be in the barbershop if I was going to cut my beard down. And I said it was either cut it or stay married. And I like being married, so I trimmed it.
Should have seen if your wife would have let you stay the beard until after this episode, maybe.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's it. This is going to be so much fun because I love your humor and everything that you have that you're doing. But for those that may not know who you are, give us a little bit behind the curtains of who Marty Ray is.
My story is very simple. I'm just a man that God put a voice in to sing, and I just use that. Some people like what I sing and write, and some people don't, and that's okay. I'm here to try to use my gift for the Lord, and wherever that takes me, I'm a walking example of Proverbs 18:16. A man's gift maketh room for him and bringeth him before great men. That's literally my life. I have no other explanation. I'm here right now before a great man.
Well, that may be one up for the debates according to who you talk to, but nevertheless, we'll expound on that.
Before you shaved is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's it. That's
right. Now, not so much, but before you shaved, great man.
That's it. The gray that's coming out, though, I'm just revealing the wealth of wisdom that I have by, the gray.
There you go.
You're doing the same as well. But, here's the thing. I chalk you up as I think in a lot of regards, people want to categorize everything as a Christian artist, a Christian comedian, Christian musician, all those things. You're simply an artist who loves the Lord.
That's right.
And that's what I love. Now, I'm going to go ahead, and I've already brought out my shame of my back hair. You and I have a deep love of Elvis Presley. And I mean,
I do love him.
You bring out music of Elvis. You bring out Johnny Cash. You bring out, you've even, one of the things that kind of put you on a viral video stance was you did a cover of Ice Ice Baby. These are things that you're doing as an individual, and you have this wide range of music. What is it that is driving you as an artist, but at the same time, that person that's serving the Lord?
Well, for years growing up, I was mimicking people, and at 5 years old, I lost the hearing in my right ear. So I can't hear very well at all, if at all, out of my right ear. So that was at 5 years old. And growing up, I thought I could mimic artists pretty well, meaning sound like them. And as I'm growing up, that's all I'm doing. I'm just singing. I grew up listening to Mahalia Jackson and Shirley Caesar and a lot of black gospel type stuff, because that's what my mom listened to. And we've always been members at a Pentecostal church. You know what Pentecostal is? So yeah, it was always a mix of culture. I say culture is a mix of race, essentially, just
right.
Everybody. But the style of the churches we went to were more like a complete black gospel, where we throw down, we jump over pews, that type of thing. So, and that type of music is what inspired me. I love it still to this day. So I listened to that, and I would try to sing that style of music. And then that kind of, as I grew up, I kind of started listening to Boys to Men, because that kind of was in the same vein, although it wasn't gospel music. It was in the same vein with R&B. And then because of them, I started liking, Sam Cooke and Al Green and people like that. And that kind of morphed into Leonard Skinner, Charlie Daniels, then Elvis Presley. My brother was actually a fan of Elvis Presley our whole life, and I wasn't, because he was. You know what I mean? So that's really the only reason. And I didn't like country music at all, because my parents listened to country music. So I thought that's old people music. So I never really liked country music until around the age of 12 years old. My mother took me to a Garth Brooks concert at the Pyramid in Memphis. So then I saw him live, and I thought, wow, this is something else here. He was really crazy. And at that point, I said, I need to give this country music a look, because maybe there is something here. And I started listening to Garth Brooks, and that led me down the path of the legends like George Jones and Merle Haggard and all these people. So it became this Mod Podge of music that I grew up with. And I think that's kind of that way for everybody. And of course, I even listened to a lot of hip hop in there too. So, and I like hip hop. I like all that. The only music I never listened to was like death metal, or like that thrash metal, a lot of metal, whatever the metal is. I don't think I ever really got into any of that. So I don't know. I'm not knocking that. And I'm sure there's some good songs out there for people that like that, and it really depends on what metal is. I don't even really know what that is. It's so broad. They have so many different subgenres of it. But so I might've listened to some, because I did listen to some rock and roll. But nonetheless, I grew up mimicking those people, and I thought I did pretty well at it. But I looked up to people like my family members that were in church and singing. They were playing music and they were writing songs, and I wasn't doing any of that. And I always thought, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to sing in church and things like that. That'd be so amazing to be able to do that, to get the opportunity. But my family was not a family that lended itself to dreamers. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like, okay, you got a dream, run after that thing. You can sing now. You're good. My family was more along the lines. They weren't hateful people, but they were very blunt, and they were realist. And they would tell you that, like my dad would say, yeah, you can sing, but you're never going to make money singing. You need to work with your hands. That's how you make a living. My mom would be like, oh, you're great at singing. Maybe someday you'll get to sing in the church. It was never, hey, you should try to do that for a living, because you got a lot of potential there. None of that ever. The only person that ever gave me encouragement like that was my grandmother. And she passed away at a young age. So that kind of left early, that left that one bit of motivation for going after something left. But it was all meant to be, because in the end, I didn't really know my own voice. You know what I'm saying? So I only had a voice of other people. And even I knew that there was no market and no way to make money just sounding like somebody else, unless I wanted to go to Branson and be on the Legends or something. And I didn't look like anybody else. So I thought, well, my dad's right. There's no money here. So for years, and then outside of that, just some people telling me that I couldn't sing and that I should learn an instrument if I was going to be in music at all. And I said, that's not really my gift. Instruments aren't really my gift. If I have any gift at all, it's singing, right? Because when I play the guitar, it's out of necessity, not out of love, because I'm not the best at it. I do it because I have to do it. And if I'm at a show, I would rather somebody else do it than me, so that's why even at acoustic shows, I always take CJ Wilder, who plays with me just about all the time. I always take him with me because he knows every song, and he's actually super gifted at the guitar. But anyway, long story short, as if this wasn't already a long story, in about 2005, I already had children at this point. I'm a grown man, and I get an Apple MacBook, and I take this MacBook to the church because, well, let me preface it by saying that I opened the MacBook when it first came in and started exploring around and found out there was this app called GarageBand. And when I clicked on that, I saw, wow, you can record yourself. You don't even have to go to a studio. That's crazy. So then my cousin, who had already been recording albums, he had a condenser mic, and he knew about how to actually get better quality sound into the computer and all these type of things. So I got with him, and we went to the church one Christmas, and I got into the makeshift vocal booth, which was the pastor's office with a cord running into it. And I started singing. We were working on a song with my uncle, Hallelujah. We never finished that song. My uncle left, and I told my cousin, I said, let's get something. I want to have something completed that I can say, look, I've recorded a full song. So I said, pick a song out of the hymn book. He picked Great Speckled Bird, and I had never heard this song, never heard anybody sing it. So I had nothing to pull from as far as mimicking someone. So at that time, when he started playing, he said, how you may play it? And I said, just play it however you would play it, and I'll just try to go along with that. And he started playing, and then it just immediately I started going, what a beautiful thought I've been thinking concerning a great speckled bird. And then at that moment, I'm going, where is this coming from? And it was like God was saying, that's your voice. And it was intentional that it came at this point and not earlier, because had you had it earlier, you would have not treated it right. You would have done something else. You might have, because it's like this. People they say, man, I wish I'd have started at a young age doing whatever I'm doing. But me, I know that if I would have actually had my voice and started at a young age to 18, I would have went on the road, toured, done all these things, never met my wife, never had my children. I would have probably been a degenerate. There's no telling what would have happened to me at that point, because I was not as wise as I was, and I didn't make the same decisions that my children were a catalyst of as an adult, you see. So it was meant to be that that God kept me from going through certain doors until I was a grown man.
It's an interesting story that you're sharing there, because I'm thinking I grew up around the music industry for most of my childhood. I'm in ministry now, but most of my childhood into my teens, my grandfather was in the country music industry, and he played with a lot of country music artists that I remember very vividly. But the majority of his life, he was more well known for mimicking Jimmy Rogers, the Blue Yodeler. And he actually done festivals and done all these things, and he done these recordings. And now, as you're sharing that story, I think back now immediately of my grandfather. Even though he was known more for mimicking Jimmy Rogers, there was always that battle to find his own identity. And he spent years that way. So when you recognize now it's no longer about the mimicking, this is who I am, was there still a little bit of a struggle to get past the mimicking into expounding more into Marty Ray?
No, at that point, as soon as I knew my voice, I never sang anybody else's voice. I mean, except for like maybe playing around. Like even today, I'm not even that good at mimicking people like I used to be, because today I try to do it every now and then, and I can't do it as well because it's not something I do. But ever since that day, I wanted to hear everything in my voice now. Like I wanted to hear every song I could hear, every song I used to sing like them. I wanted to hear it how I would sing it because I never heard that. So that's kind of how it's still that way. So it's never changed for me at that point. Of course, there's people that still say to this day, and I guess that'll always happen. They say, you sound like this guy or you sound like that guy. They even say that. Some of my fans even say that about that I sound like certain people that came out that are way younger than me and came out way after me, but just because they have a record deal and I don't, they say, well, you remind me. Like there's one guy, this is one young guy named Rag and Bone Man. You ever heard of him?
I do not know that person.
He did that song, Human. I'm only human after all.
Okay, I know that song.
Yeah, so he did that song, and then people started messaging me. They were fans of mine for years, and started saying, you remind me of Rag and Bone Man. And I'm like, no, he reminds you of me, actually, because you knew me first. I was out first. I'm older than him. I said, it's different saying I sound like I remind you of Bob Seger or something, but not Rag and Bone Man. Like, I don't remind you of him. He might remind you. For all you know, he listened to me growing up. You don't even know, but I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying that it's funny to me hearing people say, you remind me of this young kid. And I'm like, how do I remind you of this young kid when, you know what I'm saying? Did you get my point?
Yeah,
so
I do.
Yeah, it's, once I found, as a matter of fact, I don't even listen to a lot of music anymore because of the reason of I don't want to sound like other people. Like that's something that I don't want to be. I don't want to be. I'm fine with it. I'm not angry about it. But I'm saying I don't want to be. The greatest compliments I get is when people comment and they say, "There's no one that sounds like you."
Yeah.
Right. You are one in a million, or you broke the mold, or God gave you a gift that's comparable to none. And those are the greatest and that's the greatest gift to any musician, any singer, is that right there. Because I know, coming from the thought process of mimicking and thinking there's no market here for somebody that sounds like somebody else, to hear somebody then say you sound like somebody else is kind of taking me back to the days where I was thinking, well, there's no market for that, but when somebody says that, it really encourages me. It's like a gift from God when they say that, because it reminds me that God did give me this voice. This style is mine. So
I think it's the greatest attribute that you can give to any artist, when you can take another person's version, make it your own, and people disconnect from their version and connect to yours. In other words, I can take what you did with Ice Ice Baby, and it's well known. Vanilla Ice does the song, and people automatically hear the song. But when you do your version of it, I don't hear Vanilla Ice. I hear Marty Ray. And I think that's the greatest compliment. Now, I'll give you the flip side of ministry-wise. I can preach a message, and I have people that come up to me and go, you sound just like so-and-so. And I know they mean well, but it comes across a lot of times as an insult, because I go, but you didn't hear me. And you thought I was copying that person. You didn't realize the hours that I put in preparation. Just the same thing for an artist and musician. You put hours of hard work to be able to release your sound. And I think what you're saying is so valuable to a lot of people, to understand that everyone is created with their own sound, to sound that way. And that's what I appreciate what you're doing, because I've seen that, I hear that. And I was introducing, I have 4 children, and I was introducing my children to a lot of your stuff a while back. And I was telling one of my daughters in particular, both my girls sing and stuff. And I said, but listen to his voice. It's his voice. It's his sound. There's something that is there in that moment. And that's what I'm always trying to teach my kids is, don't try to be someone else when God has created you to be you in that application. So I appreciate what you're sharing in that, because I think that is the most prolific thing of every single individual, especially those trying to create a sound and release what God has given into them.
Yeah.
I got to ask you though, when you make this transition, you're and you do have more now of this sound of what you're creating. What have you found one of the most challenging aspects of that, but at the same time, the most rewarding aspect of it?
Well, that's a weird question, but yeah. What's the most challenging and the most rewarding? As far as the challenges are really not equated to my voice and my style, because at this point I have enough of a track record to not really allow things to get to me. Whereas in the beginning of me posting videos, if somebody was to say you're copying Bob Seger or you're copying this person or that person, it probably would have really bothered me. But I think God knew that, and in the beginning it was nothing but encouragement, all encouragement. And what you're saying about earlier, you were saying the greatest compliment is you can give is for someone to say that they don't hear the original artist when you do your version of a song. Actually, the greatest compliment is when, to me at least, is when somebody, because the only reason I even do covers is so that people will go listen to my originals. So the greatest compliment is when it actually works. The greatest compliment is when somebody hears Ice Ice Baby and they realize I need to search and see if this guy has his own songs, and they go and search. Because I have 3 original albums that I've released through the years that still some of my fans don't know. Now, that's partly because of me, because I don't push my original music like I should, but it's almost like an experiment, right? It's like an experiment to see how many people are actually fans of Marty Ray. See, I know when there's fans, when there's real fans, when I do a live show and they say, hey, can you play Bleed, or can you play Outlaw or Haunted, or can you do Tavern in the Cross? And those are like, some of those are deep dive songs. And I go, well, you're actually a real projector, because you went beyond the veil and you said, I want to know more. And you searched out and found the original music. So it's almost like that's kind of why I don't push it as much, but I'm about to start pushing my original music way more than I used to, because I don't want to be known by covers. I don't mind being known. I always sing. I only do covers that mean something to me. So like Ice Ice Baby, that's a song I rap my whole life. I love that song. I love the original. Let Her Cry, song I love. So I only do those songs that mean something to me, so that they don't lose the passion. If I just do a bunch of songs because they're popular, then there's no passion in them. There's nothing there. Even parodies I do, it's got to be a song that I actually liked, that I thought was pretty cool, for me to even be able to do a parody of it. See, because that's still original work when I rewrite an entire song. Like the first viral video I ever had was all about that beard, which a lot of people don't know, because they think that Ice Ice Baby was the first viral video that I had, because it got so big and it had so much, so it had legs for so long. And I'm thankful for it. God, thank you, God, for that song, because it did me a lot of good. But to this day, that song on YouTube is not my most popular video. Matter of fact, I believe it's the 4th most popular video. Now that's the most popular video on Facebook, because of how many people, but you'd have to accumulate everything. See, because on Facebook, people steal your video and they post it themselves. Like Bam Margera back then, he posted it on his Facebook, and there was so many of these big pages that were posting that video, and they kept doing this through the years. But I didn't mind, because as long as they tagged my page, I didn't mind. And most of the time they did. World Star Hip Hop, all these places. And it helped me sell a lot of records, So I have no qualms with Ice Ice Baby or any other cover. That's why I do the ones that mean something to me, so that I'll never be upset when people actually love those. But you get my point of saying that if somebody looks deeper and they find out more about you, that means that now you have somebody that's a huge fan. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's what I do. If I'm a fan of somebody, if I hear a cover, I immediately want to, if I love it, I immediately like for instance, Alan Stone. This is a guy, he's amazing. I heard his cover of a song called Sex and Candy years ago, and he did it so differently. And I thought, wow, this guy he does exactly kind of what I do. He takes a song and he does acoustic version, and he does it his way. He don't let the outside versions or nothing like that influence him. He does it the way he wants to do it and the way he feels it. And I thought, this is great. And immediately I started following him and looking for his original music. And he's got some wonderful original music. So I know that's what I do if somebody moves me, but I know that that's not everybody. Some people only like my Ice Ice Baby because that's the only thing they've ever heard, right? They listen to that, and that's it. And that's okay, because God works through that just as much as he does all of it. I can tell you, I can vouch for that. So I get messages, especially back in the day, I've gotten messages from people showing me where their baby would be crying, and the only way they get their baby to stop crying was them playing my version of Ice Ice Baby, which is crazy, right? And literally they send me a video and the baby's just wailing, and then it's like, all right, stop, collaborate and listen, and then the baby just stops crying. And I'm like, wow, man, that's the Holy Spirit doing that. I tell them, I say, that's the Holy Spirit doing that, not me. Because God is not limited to Christian genre music. That's what earlier I was going to say. When I first came out, I said, okay, I'm only going to be a Christian artist. And it was almost like I didn't hear an audible voice, but I heard in my head, it was like God said, if you label yourself a Christian artist, then only Christians will hear you, right? And I didn't come to preach forgiveness to the righteous, but to the lost. So I said, well, you know what? I'll do it all. Whatever songs move me, I'll let you move people through them. Give me the anointing of King David. Let my voice make demons run, right? Let my voice make depression and doubt, fear through whatever song it is that I sing. Let me have the anointing of David, that when he played music, demons fled. So I said, let me have that anointing. And I'm telling you that it has, in many cases, been that way. If you could read the messages that I've gotten, sometimes they're tear jerking, man. And you get to pray with these people, and in that moment, it doesn't matter that they've only heard one song. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter that all they've ever listened to is Let Her Cry, or all they've ever listened to is Ice Ice Baby. It just matters that now God has used a, quote, secular song to move somebody, to get rid of depression, to lead them to me so that maybe I can help them along the way for him, to be a voice for him. So anyway.
I love that, because I do believe it is that journey that you something connects you to that, because like with my kids not long ago, I mean, we spent forever on your YouTube page, just going through and just listening to all these different ones. You know, we listened to the one that you, and I believe it was your mother, done a cover together and stuff and everything. But it really does open up this world. And that's where, again, you know, you made a post about Elvis and That's All Right, Mama. And I love all that stuff. But then when you talk about your stuff, and I look at the album Trigger, okay, and I go through these songs, and to me, it's almost presented like a book. I've had the opportunity to write a couple of books. And so you methodically lay things out. And my curiosity got the better of me. And I wonder, when you start to put your stuff together, what you're going to do, and you're going to put on an album, and you're going to present whatever song it is, whether it's your own stuff, whether it's, you know, whatever the case may be, you're recording something that someone else wrote. Is there a process in that? Or are you just, are you thinking of how you want these songs to lay in a certain order to tell a story? Or what is the thought process of when you create and you collaborate those into an album?
Well, first of all, I've never recorded in a studio anybody else's song other than my own, besides Ice Ice Baby. And the only reason I did that one was because Vanilla Ice and I became friends, and he and I were going to do that together. So I had my part recorded, and I was just waiting to get his part. And he's always so busy. He's a busy man. And so eventually I was like, man, I got to get this album out. And I said, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of rewrite the rap at the end of that song and make it more about Memphis than Miami. And that's what I did. So, because I just wanted to get the album out. But that's the only reason that one's on there. So I don't know what it's like cutting someone else's song in the studio, because it's always something I've written on. But the way you lay an album out, typically, unless you're just trying to be artistic, which I'm never trying to be artistic in that regard, it's not really, it might seem that way in the end. If it does seem that way, then that's God, not me. Because all I'm trying to do is I am trying to put at the very top, I'm trying to put like the first three songs that I think exemplify the style of what they're going to hear. So usually it's usually 3 different genres, if I remember correctly, right off the bat. So, if you're going through there, you're going to go, okay, here's okay, this is a kind of a slow ballad jam. And then this is an EDM song. That's weird. And, this is a rock song. Okay. Wow. So then if somebody's trying to figure out what I'm about, then they'll just quickly, hopefully be able to say, oh, he's about every style of music. He writes whatever's on his heart. And then at the end, toward the end, it's songs that I hope that people get, if they listen to an album all the way through, which most people don't, but if they do, I hope that when they get to the end, it's like a party at the end, and then they want to start the whole thing over again. So that's why on the end of Mixed Emotions, which is the album you just talked about, the last song is actually a parody of All My Friends, or it's a parody of Heathens, but it's called All My Friends Are Bearded instead of Heathens. You ever heard this original song?
Yes, sir. I know.
The original is All My Friends Are Heathens, Take It Slow. And I love that band. That band's really cool, 21 Pilots. And I did that, All My Friends Are Bearded. And I thought, because you're supposed to be able to release a parody without any repercussions. It's because it's your original work. You've reworked everything other than the music. So I've never had a problem yet. So I'm hoping that I don't ever have a problem releasing certain parodies.
I think for me, because I'm always looking at the journey of what a person is presenting in whatever it is, whether it is what they do in life every day, whether it is a musician, an artist, an author, I'm always intrigued about the journey. And that's what it is. I'm always wondering what got you in that process. And that's where I think my appreciation of what you do, because when we go back to the beginning of this podcast, you mentioned all the different things that you loved about music. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, gosh, this sounds so much like myself, in the sense I'm drawn to all these, except for what the heavy metal, a lot of times I call it kill the puppy music. I just never could understand it. I couldn't, but being born and raised in Northeast Alabama. Yeah. I mean, we were introduced to Southern rock, of course, Leonard Skinner and the greats. But when my grandfather been in country music, I grew up around all the old country music artists. You mentioned Garth Brooks. When I was growing up, Garth Brooks was a little bit of a threat to country music, because it was so different. It was so unique. It wasn't in that time. It wasn't what we would call country music. And I was hardcore, because I was hardcore Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, all that. But I think that's what's drawn me to what you're presenting. And I'm wanting people to understand, when they go on this journey and they listen to your music, they go into your YouTube, they go into your Instagram, they go into the Marty Ray Project chats, podcasts. It's one of these things that is uniquely you, but I think people find themselves in that. And I think that's what's so prolific in that and in what you're doing. And so I'm drawn to it, and I can't help but wonder in this journey, this crazy journey that you've had, you've from the family not really being dreamers to where you're at now. Do you find yourself not necessarily chasing the dream, but still recognizing there's so much more to go after?
Well, yeah, every day I wonder if this is as far as I'll get, if this is as far as God will bring me, or if there's more to it. And either way, sometimes we wish we had that answer. You know, we wish that God would say, this is it right here. So you need to start looking for other means of employment. But, or he says, hey, keep at it. There's more to come. You wish you had that answer, but he doesn't give that on purpose, because that's not really faith. If you have that answer, you're not really you're not really living with faith in the fuel tank. So your faith is that God is the God of abundance, that he said that whatever you shall ask in my name, you shall receive it. So that's like, if my goal is to reach people for the Lord, for Jesus, then there's no reason that he wouldn't advance my music. You see, that's the only reason he has already, because I'm not looking for a record deal. I've had opportunities to sign record deals. I don't sign them, don't want no part of them. So I'm always and forever will be on Jesus Records, right? That's what it is. Wherever he takes me, this whole thing is actually that's why it's called Marty Ray Project. The project is, how far can a man go with just his self, God, and his fans behind him? You see, how far can one man go? I don't know, because I don't have a team even. Someday I pray and I declare that God will send me a team that will help me do some of these things more efficiently, because I need that help. I'm not the most efficient person in making sure that all my social medias are always posted on time and at the best time and every day and things like that. And that's kind of the nature of my career. What my career is, it's an online career. It's because I don't, the live shows that I do are few and far between, because I don't want to tour. So because the reason I don't tour is because I have two beautiful daughters and I don't want to stay away from them, or my wife. I don't want to be away from my family for a too terribly long time. So and that was really the case when they were younger. And this started when they were babies. So that was one of the main reasons why I never chose to sign with record labels, because they wanted you to do 150 dates a year. And I'm like, man, you're talking about gone all the time. And I see my buddy CJ Wilder, for instance, before COVID, he was gone all the time. It seemed like all the time. I had to really schedule. I was really blessed if I was able to get him to play on something I was doing, or unless he just canceled what he was doing because what I was doing paid more, which was usually the case, because what we typically still do is live is a lot of private events, which I love, because I don't have to worry about getting the audience there, and I don't have to worry about if people show up or not, if people buy tickets. I get my money, they bring me in, they got whoever's supposed to be there, and I play for them, and they love it. But now I feel like I'm supposed to do more live public shows. So I feel like that's a purpose. That's a purpose, a calling that I have in this thing. It's something I don't like to do. So anytime you don't want to do something, you better believe it's probably the Lord's calling, right? Like Abraham, he didn't want to move, but God said, well, you got to move if you want to be in my will. And so he moved. Isaiah didn't want to take Isaac up to the, not Isaiah. Abraham didn't want to take Isaac up to the mountain to sacrifice his son, but he did. And then God provided. So it's like, that's where I'm at now in this journey. I don't want to worry about having to sell tickets and if who's going to buy the tickets and things like that. But that's where faith comes in. So that's kind of where I'm at in this journey. As far as chasing the dream, I don't know if that ever stops as far as the dream that I see, unless God shows me that it's not in his will that I get to where I want to be, me personally. But it might be in his will that I get further than I'm even able to dream of, you see? Because when he opens that window of blessing and he pours it out on you and it shaking together and running over, that means that you didn't even think about all this spill, right? You didn't think about this. You were just trying to get the cup full. And you're really happy if it's just 3/4 of the way full. You're thinking, hey, right on. Yeah, I didn't get the cup full, but I got it 3/4 and I feel good about it. But God didn't say that. He said it runs over. So that means all this stuff that's running over, you didn't even think about. You didn't know that there was going to be all this extra. but it also says that he'll never put a burden on you bigger than you can bear. So that means unless you're ready for the spillage, the responsibility of the overflow, then you ain't getting it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where obedience comes in. So I'm trying to be obedient and make sure that I'm ready for the overflow.
I love that, Marty. I mean, I genuinely love what you're sharing there. I am curious though, what is something that we don't know about Marty Ray? What's something that we just don't get that glimpse of a lot of times? Is it something that you don't like or do like? A couple of podcasts ago, I listened to the journey you guys did with the pouches of coffee beans. The actual bean dip. And for those that have no idea what we're talking about, you're going to have to go and subscribe to the Marty Ray Project Chats podcast to listen in a couple of episodes a while back. But so what is it that we don't know about Marty Ray besides the coffee pouches in the, that's just,
well, you know that now, because that's how, let's see, something people wouldn't think of is I love bath salts. I love sitting in a big tub.
Okay, I was not expecting that.
Yes, sir. I knew you wouldn't. That's why I figured it'd be a good one. My wife goes, she buys all these bath salts, and they think they're for her. She brings them in the box, and she's like, "Here, I got you some bath salts." And I'm like, "Thank you, babe. I love the Valentine's violet or the, whatever it is." And then some of them have like little hearts that float on the top of the water. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is the best, man. And I just get in there in a dark room in a tub. And thank God I got a big enough tub to hold me, because it'd be a problem if I didn't.
I'm sorry. There's two problems with this. Number one, I genuinely was not expecting that answer. Number two, that paints a picture in my mind.
Exactly what I wanted to do. Little hearts all over my bellies. I got multiple, you see. I didn't think about that. Look, all over my bellies. Yeah, hearts everywhere. Right.
So prolific.
Stars.
I was not expecting that, and that is just that's made my night just hearing that, just because that's so funny.
Go get you some bath salt.
I may have to pass on that. Every once in a while, a good soak will help the old muscle joints and stuff and everything, but I don't know that I can get in the bath salts scene.
Man, let me tell you something. I used to have really bad calluses on my feet. I didn't care. I didn't go to the salon or nothing to get rid of them. They're just there. That's just kind of like a man's foot. And I started soaking when I was doing baths. When I was taking a lot of baths, I don't get to take as many now. But when I was doing that all the time, I was looking at my foot one day, and there was no callus at all on my toe or on my foot at all. And I was like, where'd this go? Like, what happened to this? And then I started thinking, I was like, oh, I'm in bath salts a lot here lately. And so if you got calluses, I'm here to tell you, bath salts.
You remind me of something. When my grandfather had his own show here in the Smoky Mountains, he used to advertise Cloverine salve. I don't know if you ever remember the product Cloverine salve. It was basically like a Vaseline or a Neosporin type stuff. And I can remember him sharing stories like that. If you've got this, Cloverine salve will do it, and this and that. So it was just a flashback at that moment. But we do have to work on that Tennessee hat in the background. We got to help, man. We got to help you bring up the elevation of your status and put in some crimson and white and everything. So,
well, I'll tell you, like I told you before this was recording, this is my screen and that's your screen. You can have the Roll Tide roll over there, and I'll have the Go Vols go over here. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not actually a Tennessee Vols fan. I did a commercial with Bill Dance. You know who Bill Dance is?
Who doesn't know who Bill Dance is? Lord,
I did a Garmin commercial, two Garmin commercials with Bill Dance, and he and I became buddies, and he gave me some of those hats and signed them. So I wore that for a long time. You can see the sweat has moved the signature. It really smudged it, but I have another one that's fresh. But I was wearing that for a while, and people thought I was a Tennessee fan, and they would go, man, especially in Nashville, they're thinking that people would come up and be like, well, yeah, they didn't do well last week. And I'm like, oh, did they not? I had no clue because like I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and raised in Arkansas. So if I'm a fan of any, I did try to become a Tennessee fan just because of the hat and because I live here, but they just really suck really bad. So I just couldn't do it. But I used to be a huge Arkansas Razorbacks fan. Football, basketball, we used to go to games all the time. But even them, I don't even watch them too much anymore. I don't watch really too much sports at all anymore.
Yeah, life is busy. I'm the same way. I barely watch anything Alabama, but, while we're Kings, it's good to rub it in every once in a while. But I forgive you for the Bill Dance because I would take a hat signed by him and put it up. I wouldn't wear it, but I would put it up. There's some things a man won't do.
I'm gonna get him to send you one for your shelf back there.
All your stuff. I mean, Bill Dance. I mean, that's the epitome. It's almost a sin not to know who Bill Dance is, to be honest.
If you're a country boy, it really is. Because growing up, he kind of taught me to fish. I wrote a song about Bill Dance. Haven't released it or nothing, but I did.
Yeah, I did growing up fishing and hunting. That's how I learned a lot about certain lures and stuff was Bill Dance, watching Bill Dance on TV. So that's pretty awesome on that side of it. But every episode I give it every guest an opportunity to share something, to have the final word, last word. There may have been something I didn't get to ask, something that you want to share. We may have covered it all. I feel like bath salts has covered a lot, but nevertheless, if you want to
cover all of you,
that's right. I want to give you an opportunity to have that final and last word. If there's anything you want to share and that's on your heart, you may not, but if there is, I do want to give you that opportunity.
I would just say, whoever's listening, I don't know if only Christians listen to this show or not, but I would say if you don't know Jesus, it's time to get to know Jesus, because this whole world's wrapping up. It ain't all peaches and roses out here, and the only thing that's going to help you in the end is Jesus. And so I would say that would be the most important message that I could say to anybody, more important than anything I've done or could say about myself.
Yeah, I hope to the goodness that not just Christians are listening to this. I'd be quite saddened by that if I didn't break some barriers in that. So again, I'm just very honored. I want to direct people to your work, what you're doing. How can people find out about Marty Ray?
Well, you can go to martyrayproject.com and you can get merchandise there, like this hat or other hats and shirts and whatnot. And you can support us there. You can find me on, this is this new app called Brand Army. It's not really just an app. It's actually more of a online type platform, but it's an app too. It's called Brand Army. And I just partnered up with them, and I'm going to be doing some secret live shows over there on Brand Army. So if anybody is on there or they want to get on something like that, they can go there. There's going to be some very, very exclusive things over there. And then you can join the mailing list on the website, martyrayproject.com. And then other than that, it's just finding the Marty Ray Project Chats podcast and checking out those guests we have over there. It ain't just me talking the whole time over there. So it's good.
It really is. I'm fascinated by it. I listen and I appreciate, even the conversations you had with some recent guests, the stories of the Verb Pipe and the stories of the Freshman and how that song was, originated and stuff. I love that. I love the journey you take people on. I'm often challenged by your 5 lightning round questions that you have early in the podcast. But
everybody is, yeah. You're supposed to, nobody ever says them quickly. No. And when they try to say them quickly, I make sure that they don't really achieve it on purpose. Like there was somebody, I forgot who it was, but there was somebody who said, okay, I got it. And they were actually being quick. And then I would say, yeah, but is that this or is that that? And I would make it go longer just because that's the running joke, is it's fast 5, but it's never fast. You know what I mean? It's not really questions you can answer quick because they're just off the wall questions.
And I think that's what I enjoy most about it, because they're never the same five. They're the most random 5 questions possible. I mean,
if you go back to the beginning, I was rotating some of the same ones, but now I'm as long as I'm able to find new ones and new crazy ideas, because I don't want it to have anything to do with the actual interview. So they're supposed to be random, completely separate from interview questions. You know, like if I was to look at you, I'd be like, what's your favorite snack food, or something crazy like that, because that's not a question you ask in an interview.
Right.
You're not asking that. So you just want to break the ice and let the guest know and the listener know that this is not a all serious show. There might be some serious moments, but there's a lot of laughter here. There's a lot of joy here. That's kind of what we do over there. But I do want to say real quick, you talked about earlier, you said you were growing up, you were a country fan, and you thought that Garth Brooks wasn't country because he was whatever. And we actually have that conversation because my original co-host was Jim Best, who is a Country Music Hall of Fame steel guitar player. He's on the early episodes before Chris Wallen was the co-host. And he and I have argued about that so much because because he says that Garth Brooks, and even right before Garth Brooks, is not real country, that what he played on, which is Johnny Paycheck and George Jones and all them, was real country. And I said, well, then the guys before you say that you weren't real country. I said, the problem with saying what's real country and what isn't is saying that it's because it's always relative. I could go and say, well, this hip hop today, this ain't real hip hop. Hip hop was what I listened to growing up. That was real. But that's not really true, because whatever genre is selling now to the young population, that's what real is. It's always relative, because someday they'll be saying the same thing that other people say. You see what I'm saying? So if anybody wants an interesting conversation, look up the Razzie Bailey episode, and I believe you'll have fun listening to that.
I think it's such a valid statement, because I mean, I'm 43 years old. I'm not as old as I think that I am, but I'm definitely not as young as I once was. But because of the influence of my grandfather and growing up very close to him, you know, I knew what we'd call country gold. I knew more about country gold. And so when what we called the ushering in the 90s of new country, it was like, whoa, this is a little bit of a struggle in that. Now, looking back, I see the value of what Garth introduced. I've even watched some documentaries and really fascinated by the way that he presented things. Now, I will sit here and still admit that there's some stuff now that I still struggle with. You know, no disrespect to any of the artists right now, but I'm like, that just, for me, I would categorize that a different genre. It doesn't mean I discredit their music or what they're doing. It's just there's something. I'm obsessed with sounds. You don't get, if you were going to go and record at Muscle Shoals, you're going to have a distinct sound to what you're producing. You're not going to go to Motown and record what you would record in Muscle Shoals or Memphis in the day of Sun Records. And so that's where I'm always intrigued by all that. And I love that that you get that in yourself. You get that in the Garth Brooks or whatever artist it would be, because you get that little seeds of those different sounds and different distinctions and stuff. And I think that's what makes the creativity so fascinating to me.
That was kind of in the conversation. It was, I said, because that's what he said. He said, well, just call it something else, another genre. And I said, no, if you didn't call country music today, even though he doesn't like it and Razzie don't like it, and I'm not even saying I like it. I'm not, because like I said earlier, I don't really listen to music too much anymore. Anyway, I listen to a lot of talk radio, a lot of sermons and things like that. But just because somebody doesn't like it doesn't mean that it should be changed. The genre should change. And if you change the genre to something else, then all of a sudden that genre dies out, right? You don't hear polka anymore. It's not charting, right? That stuff, there's a lot of there's a lot of music genres that used to exist that wouldn't exist. Like, for instance, if you said, okay, change the genre of country music, call it something else, but all they're producing is that style of country, like the bro country, whatever you want to call it, then there is no country no more. Then that means country that these young people coming up, if they like that style of music, they're never going back and searching the old music. If it wasn't for Garth Brooks, even though people back then did not call him real country, if they said call that something else, if they would have called that something else, I never would have looked into the older country music because of that genre name. I said, well, let me see what country really is then, because of Garth Brooks. So that's the only reason. If they would have called that, I don't know, Burning 10 or something, that was what Garth Brooks genre was called, and everybody now was called that, I never would have looked back at what country was. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that goes that way for all of it. If it's that way, look at R&B. So as R&B has progressed, it sounds nothing like Temptations today. Nothing.
Right.
It sounds nothing like even Boys to Men today, hardly. So, but if it wasn't called R&B, the new people that hear people like Frank Ocean and them, they might not ever have heard of Boys to Men and Temptations and the people in Motown. So I don't know if changing the genre name, I just think it's just the way the flow of music. And at this day and age, genre don't even really matter too much. But somebody like me, it don't matter at all, because I hate the fact that sometimes I hate the fact there even is genres, because that's something that a label does. They say, you need to pick a lane and stay in it. That's why that's what they've always told me. You need to figure out if you're country, blues, rock, pop, what are you? And I say, I'm all that. I'm going to be whatever I want to be. And that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to, whatever's on my heart to write or sing, I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to let you determine what I do and put me in a box. So to me, I got a little bit of a hatred towards genres anyway. So you asked something that's a good one for you. Asked something that people wouldn't know that I didn't like. That's one of the things I don't like, genres.
That makes sense though, because I've not thought about how that can limit it. And it's making me think now because of the reality. Ultimately, record companies are creating the stigma of genres for radio listeners, but artists today aren't bound by radio listeners anymore because of media. We have media outlets that can do that. And so that you're really challenging my thinking on that. And I really like that a lot, because you can find the creativity in what you're doing, not being bound by putting into a certain group. So that's very, very interesting. It does challenge my thinking on that. If you hear
somebody asked Josh Turner a long time ago, they said, why aren't you a Christian artist? Because he did a few Christian songs. And they asked him that, and he said, because I didn't want to be limited to only being able to sing Christian music.
Right.
If I did a country song, I want to be able to do a country song. So if I say I'm country, I can still be country and do Christian songs. Isn't that interesting? Right?
Yeah.
That if you say I'm Christian, I'm a Christian music artist, then you cannot do these other things. When the lead singer of Mac Powell of Third Day, when he said I wanted to sing some country music, he couldn't do both. He had to. He left and did country music for a while, only country music, which I think is stupid. It's dumb to me. You can do both. You can do whatever you want, but not with a label. Anyway,
that's you bring out a very, very good point of that, and I know this is a totally different subject, but it makes me think of a comedian by the name of Tim Hawkins, who is a profession Christian, but he said, don't label me as a Christian comedian.
Right.
And he said, if I have a plumbing issue, I don't go to the phone book and the yellow pages and look at Christian plumber. He said, I'm looking for the plumber who can make the water go down.
Right.
You know, I'm not looking for the Christian plumber. I'm looking for the plumber. That's what I'm looking for. And so I like that, Marty. That I like to be challenged, and you're challenging my process, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really trying to challenge anybody. I'm just trying to state my opinion of the whole matter. just like he said. But I don't mind people saying, okay, I'm just a Christian comedian or I'm just a Christian artist. That's fine. If that's all you ever want to write and you want, because somebody needs to create the songs that we sing in church, right?
Right.
So if that's all they feel led to do, then that's fine. But they definitely, I'm not saying they do, but they definitely should not ever judge somebody as a non-Christian just because they're not labeled a Christian artist, you see, or comedian or whatever the case may be. So,
yeah, and it really is a shame that we would reject what someone presents because it came in a manner in which we didn't prefer. At the end of the day, that's a shame. So I want to encourage everybody to make sure to find Marty Ray Project on YouTube, Instagram, all the, like I said, Facebook, all the stuff. Go to his website as well. Gosh, there's so many videos you've got of songs and stuff that you've done that are on YouTube that you'll get lost for hours. And I'm vouching for that because I was introducing you a while back to my children and stuff and was just like, again, for me, it's the sound, it's the voice, it's what draws me into individuals, and such a huge appreciation. Thank you so much. I know you've taken time out of your busy day and your schedule. I just appreciate your willingness to come and be a part of this podcast.
I appreciate your willingness to have me on here, brother. And I appreciate you listening and being a projector. That means the world to me. It does.
It's really good. I love it. I love what you're doing. And so, I just thank you for everything. And maybe our paths will cross real soon and we'll get either some good coffee or some good fried chicken and turnip greens and Bush's baked beans, of course,
all that. We'll get all that.
We got to get you over here in Eastern Tennessee, not to be like Branson, but, over here in the Smoky Mountains area, we got to get you over here.
I love Gatlinburg.
So, it's right here in our back door and everything. So my office, actually where I'm at, is in Pigeon Forge.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I vacation there a lot.
So we got to make it happen again. So I genuinely appreciate everything, sir.
Right on, brother.
I'll send you some bath salts in the mail as a
some old smoky bath salts.
Yeah. For everybody else that's listening, we thank you so much. I genuinely hope and pray that this episode has encouraged you, it has challenged you, and it has equipped you, even in everything that we've talked about, to further advance the kingdom of God and everything that we do. Guys, we love you, and be blessed in the name of Jesus.
Thank you for listening to the Blacksmith Chronicles podcast. It is our prayer that this episode challenged you, encouraged you, and equipped you for the advancement of the kingdom of God. For more episodes or ways that you can partner with Ryan Johnson Ministries, please go to www.ryanjohnson.us or email us directly at info@ryanjohnson.us. Please join us again soon for another episode of the Blacksmith Chronicles.